Hi there. Do you remember me? My name is Jack Wallen. And for a while I was doing a Linux 101 series and then I vanished. Well, I won't go into the details of it, but my life kind of fell apart. And I'm picking the pieces back up, and here I am again with another Linux 101. And I'm going to address this time, because it's been so long since I've been here, I'm going to address a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Why aren't you, yes you, using Linux? Now, you may have come here already using Linux and thinking, well, I'm using Linux. Why should I even bother listening to what this weirdo has to say? Well, because, and this is important, because you might have people in your life that you believe should be using Linux and aren't. And you could share this with them and say, here's the reasons why you should be using Linux. Or rather, in this case, the reasons busting the myths of why you're not. Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready? Can we do this? Can we do this right now? Okay, let's do this. Number one, you've never heard of it. Well, now you have. In case you've never heard of it, Linux is an operating system. Just like Windows, just like Mac OS, just like Android, just like iOS and iPad OS. It is an operating system that allows you to interact with your computer's hardware, peripherals, and software. That's all it is. I mean, to say that's all it is an understatement, because it's a lot of things. It's like, I can't even remember the kernel of Linux is like 30-some million lines of codes, or code of 40 million lines of code. I can't remember. But it's a lot. It is a lot. But every operating system is a lot. But all you need to know is that Linux is an operating system. And the reason why you've never heard of it is probably because operating systems like Microsoft have sort of paid their way into all of these big box stores. So they have, their operating system is the one that is pre-installed on all of the machines that you can buy at Best Buy and Amazon. So now there are companies that sell Linux pre-installed on hardware like System 76. I use System 76 hardware, and it's great. I have a Thelio desktop, and it's been the best desktop I've ever used. So yeah, you can get it pre-installed. Sure, of course. But the key is, when you say, never heard of it, now you have. It's simple. Okay. Number two, Linux is just for geeks. Well, back in around 97, when I first started using Linux, that was a very true statement. And even more so, Linux was an operating system for the uber geeks, for the computer science majors, for the hackers, and for the what I used to call the trench coat army. The reason why I say that is because the very first Linux convention I went to was at the Research Triangle, where Red Hat is, and as soon as I walked into the building, there were just a bunch of guys wearing trench coats, carrying around laptops with stickers all over them, and sitting in halls and doing things alone, and you're thinking, what are they doing over there? But now, fast forward to now, and Linux isn't just for geeks. In fact, Linux is so easy to use that it could be used, it could be your grandma's operating system, it could be your grandpa's operating system, it could be your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt's operating system, it could be your mom or your pop's operating system, it could be your little sister's operating system, it could be anybody's operating system, because it's just so darned easy now. It really is. Especially with all these wonderful modern desktops like GNOME and KDE and Cinnamon and Mate. There are some desktops that are not exactly for everybody, but then there's Pantheon. There's so many desktop environments that are available for Linux that make it really, really easy. Number three, You fear change. Okay, I get that. People do fear change. That's a real thing. But let me ask you this. So, I don't know how many years ago it was. Probably quite a while. Probably 20 years ago. Maybe over 20 years ago. Maybe 30 years ago. I can't remember. But when was it that you first used a smartphone? Doesn't matter if it was Android, doesn't matter if it was Apple, doesn't matter. When did you first use a smartphone? Ask yourself that question. Think about it. Now, prior to you buying and using your first smartphone, what operating system were you using? How did you access the internet and do your productive work? Most likely, it was with Windows or Mac OS. When you got your first cell phone, your first smartphone, it had a different operating system. You had to change the way you worked from the desktop to the mobile. You had to change it. And guess what? The world did not come apart. You did not die. You did not lose your mind. It just happened, and it was much easier than you thought. The same thing holds true with Linux. You can move from Windows to Linux without any problem, especially if you go with like a KDE desktop, because it's very similar. It's laid out in a very similar manner as Windows, so you don't have to fear Linux. It's not like a T-Rex waiting for you in the shadows. If T-Rexes could wait in the shadows, I guess it'd have to be a really small T-Rex, but it's not going to grab you and drag you into a hole and gobble you up. An operating system is something you don't have to fear. Yes, it is change, but sometimes change is good, especially if you're going from Windows to Linux. Sometimes the change can be good. Yes. Number whatever, I've lost count. You're afraid of the command line. Well, I've got really good news for you. And I know that there are people out there who will vehemently argue against what I'm about to say, but you don't have to use the command line. You don't. Simply don't. You do not ever have to use the command line. If you're using Linux as strictly a desktop operating system, the command line is optional. It truly is. Now, if you're using it as a server, command line is not optional. If you're an administrator, command line is not optional. But if you're using it for a straight up desktop, if you're just going to get online, if you're going to do some online shopping, if you're going to play some games, again, there will be arguments, but if you're going to browse social media, if you're going to write a term paper, whatever, it'll work for you, I promise you. And when you do those things, you will never, ever have to touch the command line. I can go days without touching the command line. And I'm not afraid of the command line. I use it all the time. But there are sometimes I'm just like, I'll just use the GUI instead because it's quicker. I've got the file manager open. I don't have to use the command line. So stop worrying about the command line. You don't have to use it. I promise. Number whatever. It has no apps. Oh, but it does. It really does. Linux has tons of applications. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, but it doesn't have X. Well, it might not have X, but it has Y, which is the equivalent of X. For example, if you use Microsoft Office or Office 365, there's LibreOffice. LibreOffice as a locally installed Office suite. There's also Google Workspaces, which is a cloud-based work suite that you use via your browser. There are always alternatives. Photoshop, GIMP. I could go on and on and on and on and on. And some of the apps you use on Windows actually have versions for Linux. such as Spotify and Slack, and even DaVinci Resolve, which I use for video editing. I'll use it to edit this video. Woohoo. So you don't have to worry about it. Especially, I would say this. So if you are going to use Linux, you will probably want to use either want to add or select a distribution that has Flatpak or Snap. Those are universal package managers. And you can, with those universal package managers, install proprietary software like Spotify and Slack. And you can do it by opening up your app store, which Linux invented, or Linux developers invented. Apple didn't invent the app store. You can open up your app store, search for Slack or Spotify, and there it is. Click install, boom, you're done. There's no support. Au contraire, mon ami. There is support. There is a vast, vast community of people out there. Many, 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 many of them are willing to help you. Way back when I first started Linux, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. None. And I made the mistake of installing Linux over Windows, and I was really poor and couldn't afford to buy another Windows license. So I was like, well, I guess I have to use Linux now. And back then it was really hard to find tutorials and things like that. Well, I happened to, I don't remember where, it was maybe on a mailing list or a forum. I happened to find this young man who helped me, who spent time helping me understand what I needed to do to turn Linux into my daily operating system. And there are people like that out there everywhere. And there are forums and mailing lists and you name it. And there, even like if you choose a distribution, let's say you choose Ubuntu as your distribution of choice, there are Ubuntu forums. You go to those Ubuntu forums and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this, or hey, I don't know how to do X. How can I do this? You'll get plenty of responses saying, here's how you do X. Now, of course, there's going to be some people out there who are trolls and are just, you know what I'm talking about. Just ignore them. Just ignore them because they're everywhere, everywhere. You're going to run into them. Doesn't matter if you're trying to get Linux help or help with your cleaning your Birkenstock sandals. Doesn't matter. You're going to run into trolls. So just ignore them. But there is a lot of people out there willing to help you get up to speed with Linux. Why? Because they want you to use Linux. And that's kind of the beauty of the Linux community at large, as a whole. Not individual, because there are bad apples everywhere. But they want you to use Linux. That's one of the reasons why I started this video series, because I want you to use Linux. Why? Because the more people that use Linux, the more companies out there are going to be willing to create software for Linux. See how that works? So if I can help you to say, okay, I think I'll try it, then I've done my job. And I would also suggest those people out there who are watching this, who actually already know Linux, to maybe spread this video around to say, hey, look, you can use Linux. Here's this weird dude that I don't know, but he's going to help you understand that it is possible for you to use Linux. Help me to help you to help me to help you to help me. If you get that reference. So, what else do we have? I don't know which distro to use. That's a big question. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is there are so many distributions. So many of them. In fact, there are so many distributions out there. There's so many distributions in desktop environments, and window managers, and compositors, and well, there are not a whole lot of compositors, but it can be a bit daunting for a new user. Where do I start? What do I do? There's Ubuntu, there's Linux Mint, there's Fedora, there's Arch Linux, there's Gentoo, there's Pop! OS, there's Elementary OS. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. You see where I'm going with that? But if you're new to Linux and you go, which Linux distribution should I use? You're going to get so many opinions as to which one is the best for you. And I could offer you my opinion as to which distribution is best for you, and someone else could offer their opinion. But the truth of the matter is that the first thing you need to do is only look at the main distributions. By main, I mean Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Fedora, Arch Linux. Let's stick to those. There's more, but let's just say that those are the 4 Linux distributions you want to start with to make your choice, right? So you've narrowed it down, but you're a new user. So here's what I would say. You get rid of Arch Linux, you get rid of Fedora Linux. That leaves you 2 choices right now, Ubuntu and Linux Mint. Those 2 operating systems are, generally speaking, the best choice for new users. Why? Because they have the best hardware support. They have the easiest user interfaces. Even though Ubuntu does kind of switch things up on you, and if you don't like the Ubuntu desktop, you can always go with Kubuntu, which is Ubuntu with KDE Plasma, which is much more similar to what you're using now, probably. Or you can just go with Linux Mint. Linux Mint is going to be immediately familiar. You're going to install Linux Mint, and by the way, the installation of Linux is very simple. It is literally a point-and-click affair. You click your mouse a couple of times, you type your name, you type your password, and pretty much you go. That's it. And the second you log into Linux Mint with the Cinnamon desktop, you're going to go, oh, well, this looks really familiar. There's a start button. What if I click this button down here on the bottom left? Click, oh, there's a menu. Oh, look, it's in categories. I see categories. There's an Office. Oh, look, there's LibreOffice. Oh, there's multimedia. Oh, look, there's VLC. I can't remember if Linux Mint ships with VLC Media Player. But all of a sudden, everything's going to look familiar. So all those other fears that you have are gone. Because you're going to realize that there's not as nearly as much change as you think it was going to be involved. Because it really is that easy. And then after you've used either Ubuntu or Linux Mint long enough and you've become familiar with Linux, then at some point you might say, well, I'm kind of bored with this one. What do I want to try next? Then you could go to Zorin OS, which is based on Ubuntu, or you could go to Elementary OS, which looks kind of similar to Mac OS. And that's part of the beauty of Linux, is that if you don't like what you see, you can change it. You can install a different desktop environment, or you can just switch distributions and say, I don't like Fedora. I liked Fedora a little bit, but I'm not sure if I like the GNOME desktop environment, so what should I try now? Oh, there's Kubuntu. KDE Plasma looks kind of interesting. Let me try that. Okay, I liked it, but it's still kind of, it's just the same old, same old. What am I going to try? Oh, look, Elementary OS. Ooh, this looks clean and elegant. Let me try that for a while. And then you go, well, okay, I'm a little bored with that now. Oh, look, Ubuntu Budgie. Ooh, that's sexy. Let me try that one for a while. And then you go, oh, there's my operating system, Ubuntu Budgie. Yay, I've done it. So you see, you don't have to be afraid of Linux. And all of those reasons why you're not using Linux, just brush them aside. Just brush them aside. And if you have a spare computer lying around, like if you have a Windows 10 computer Windows 10 is losing its support pretty soon, and that computer is not powerful enough to run Windows 11, and you don't want to buy another computer just to upgrade to the the next Windows operating system, install Linux on it, and you're done. Because Linux is free, And most Linux operating systems, especially like Ubuntu LTS, which it means long-term support, they get long-term support. I think it's 5 years, but then you can add I think is it still called Ubuntu Pro? I don't remember what it's called. These are all unscripted, so I will say things erroneously, and when I do, just correct me in the comments. That's great. Thank you very much. But you can extend the support to 10 years on Ubuntu LTS. So you can install Linux and you don't have to worry that all of a sudden it's not going to work anymore on your computer. And when the support runs out for the LTS, guess what? You just upgrade to the next one. You just go from Ubuntu 24.04 to 26.04, and you've got 10 more years. So it's so easy. And the nice thing about it is Ubuntu, if you're using Ubuntu 24.04, sorry, and you upgrade to 26.04, the machine you're using will still work with the new version of Ubuntu. You don't have to worry about, oh, is this system going to be powerful enough to run the new version? Because when I tried to migrate to Windows 11, it didn't happen. It didn't work. Oh my gosh, you don't have to worry about that. Because Linux. And there you go. Hopefully I have assuaged your concern about using Linux. And if not, you can get online, go to DuckDuckGo, because I always recommend DuckDuckGo over Google search, just period. Because why? AI. So go there, go to DuckDuckGo and go, I need help with Linux, or whatever you want to search for. You'll find help. Your concerns will be allayed. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me a little bit of your time. It means the world to me that you're willing to listen to me ramble on a little bit, because yes, I do ramble a little bit. I do. So if you're going to make that comment in the comment section, oh, this guy rambles on too much, I'm sorry. That's just my nature. I'm a rambler. Anyway, thank you so much, and I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.